Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be learning Tighter and Tighter, which is a deeper cut by Soundgarden. It is off their Down on the Upside album. It is track 11 on the album, and it is a pretty simple track as far as guitar goes, but it's a very fun one that has some interesting chord choices, and it has a great feel, and I really do like this song. So today we are going to be learning the main rhythm guitar parts on that, so let's get right into it. There will be a full tab for the entire song that will be available for this in addition to the lesson here, so don't forget to check the description for a link to that comprehensive tab, and let's get started. Okay, so starting off here, the song is going to start with this little riff here. We're going to pick the open E, pick the 3rd fret of the E, and then we're going to slide up to the 15th fret, and we're going to do that a couple of times, and then it's going to change and slide up to the 12th fret, and then it's going to turn back around. So that's going to be like this. And like I said, you're going to turn back around and play that again. You're just going to play that intro riff twice before we get into the meat of the song. And then that main riff that comes in after the intro is going to be like this here. So pretty simple riff there. We're going to go open E and then hammer on 5th to 6th, pull off back to 5th. And that's of course on the D string. You're doing that hammer on pull off. And then 5th to 7th fret A string. Slide out or slide up or do nothing at all. They have variations of that throughout the song that they play it differently like that. And pop it in, guys, to remind you to go down below and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps me out. It helps the channel grow. Thanks a lot. And then that comes back around to the open E. You play that again. But instead of going back to that the second time around, you're going to do this little run here, starting with the 5th fret on the E and then going 7th, bending up. And then 7th fret. Play that again. And then of course it goes 7, 5, 5 on the A, and then back to 7, and then back to the 5th of the A, and then this open here, you play the open D, G, and B, and don't forget to mute it when you turn back around. So you play that full thing like that. It's going to be played 6 times. I played it twice for you just to give you time to see that and study that, but you're going to play it 6 times before you move on to the next section. But before the next section, behind the intro, there are some colored guitars that Kim is doing, and he's doing something very simple. He's doing a natural harmonic on the B and G string on the 4th beat of each bar of the intro section, like this. So you would count to the 4th beat, and these are 2 8th notes, so it would be 4 and then you let that ring until it comes all the way back around again, and then you play it again. But when it's at the part where it's sliding up to the 12th fret, you're going to jump up to the same harmonic spot on the D and A string and play that. So that's pretty normal there. That's not too complicated. And then when the main riff kicks in, for the first 2 bars, Kim is doing some fills there. I said first 2 bars, I mean the first 2 times around on the main riff. And the first fill he does here is this. You're going to bend up on the 15th for a whole bar and then pick it again and release it a whole bar, so that would be like this. Then 3rd bar, pick this 12th fret. And that's it, and then he's going to do a different fill here, starting with open and close of the wah pedal with playing nothing, and then a rest, half note rest, and then it's going to be like this. Don't forget about that slide up, and then that slide up happens kind of, I think it happens throughout the first half note of the next bar, so it would be kind of like this. And then there's another rest, and then you play the fill again. But instead of doing this part here again, on the 7th and 9th fret of the G, you're going to go up to the B and bend this 10th fret. And then release it, and then do it again with a little flourish. And end with that 8th fret there on the B string. Pretty simple fill that he does there at the beginning. That's the last we hear from Kim for a little bit. For now, we're going to go back into the main rhythm guitars here. The next section here, after you've played that main riff 6 times, is going to go like this. And then it's going to go back around to another section of the main riff. We'll get to that in a second. First, let's talk about this. I have it labeled as a half chorus because this comes back later, and then there's some additional parts afterward. So the way this starts, though, is we have a C5 power chord here. Played like that. It's a little funky here, so I'll tell you about the timing when we get to it. So it has a dotted 8th note here. It's an 8th note plus a 16th note. And then, so it would be picked with that, and then a 16th note of the same chord, and then an 8th note. So that goes like this. So you would get that, and then we're going to have this thing take off the pinky here, and we're going to play open B and G, and then the 3rd fret here, and then back to the chord. So that's a pretty simple section there. You can see the timing pretty clearly on this. It's not too crazy. And then the next thing we go open E, and then we have this E7 chord. And there's 2 places you can do this. I like to do it here because in the open position like this, it feels too noisy and it's hard to do the muting, which sounds like it's there because there's a clear difference between the open E and the chord, and you can't mute that properly on the open position. So I do it here, which is 7th fret A, 5th fret D, and then 7th fret G. So just open E for a quarter note, and then 4 16th notes of that, and then you play 8th note of the open E, you play it twice, and then 2 16th notes, 8th note of the E7 chord again, so like this. And then we switch to a D chord here. This is an A shape chord though we're doing here. We're just doing it in a different position of what a normal A chord would be. So we do it like this to make a D, which is 5th fret on the A, and then 7th fret for the D, G, and B. And then that goes for a quarter note, and then an 8th note, and then 4 16th notes, and then an 8th note, so that would be like this. And then after that 8th note, we got 4 16th notes. And then back to the open E, because that's where the turnaround happens and you go back to the main riff. So that's not too complicated there. So the section after that I call main riff B, because it takes the normal riff and then we add on the thing that we played earlier with this C5 power chord. So let's play that right now. You play that you're going to play that thing twice in this next section, and it's pretty tricky because you've got to go from that bend here to the chord, which takes a little bit of practice to get that down. Even I have trouble with that sometimes, even when I've been practicing it a lot. You should get the hang of it pretty easily. So next thing after that, you go back to the main riff for 4 bars. So, you know, remember that whole thing. Let's give you guys a little refresher there on that. We play main riff B, which we just did earlier 4 times as well. And then we go to main chorus, which, like I said before, the other one was half chorus because we're going to start with that same thing that we played with the 3 different chords, our C5, our E7, and our D chord. But that's going to have a few additions, though, to that. And I'll go ahead and play that for you. And there it is there. Make sure you watch your muting, of course, on all those things. So like I said before, you play that half chorus thing like we did, ending with that D chord, but then you go turn back around and you play that same section with the E7 where we have the open E and then the E7, the same, and then we're going to change to this A chord over here. And we're going to play that. Let me look at the tab here so I can tell you guys exactly how that's going on. So it's a pattern of 8th note and 2/16 like this. So it's going to sound like this when you play it. And so the way that works is you have that grouping of an 8th note plus 2/16 notes, an 8th note plus 2/16 notes, 8th note again, and then we're going to have 3 though at the end here, and then it's going to end with that, with this thing here where we play the 3rd fret of the E and then an open B, G, and D. So again, that's going to be like this. Then we go back to the C5 chord, and you're going to play a quarter note, and then it's going to have 4 hits of 8th note, and then a 16th note, and back to this G kind of chord here again. So that would be like this. And then back to the A for a quarter note, then an 8th note. And then make sure you mute that before you go to the open E here and play this. So that ending's a little bit funky there because it's, you know, the 2 A's there, and the timing of the notes changes. So it'd be like, this would be the whole ending part there. So there is that. And this ends here. It does not go through the whole section here because there's a weird bar there here that is, I have marked as being in 6/4 because of how it turns around to the next section. There's not really a good way to count that. You can't count it in 4/4 exactly, so it's easier to just add 2 beats to this bar here. And the way the drums go out and then come back in is kind of what leads you to count it that way. But after that, in this weird 6/4 bar, starting on the 5th beat, is where the next section is going to start, and this is going to go like this. So there is that with this D5 chord. You play it 5 times as 16th notes, slide up to the E5 chord, and then you have the open E for a half note, or I mean for an 8th note. I keep saying half notes instead of 8th notes. And then repeat that same pattern with going over to the G5 chord. You play that 5 times, 16th notes, slide up to the A, and then the open 0, this time for a quarter note, and then 1, 2, 3 as quarter notes is how that ends. That can be a little bit tricky, but this is a pretty feel-based thing. If you just get into the rhythm of this, it'll be pretty easy to keep playing it the same way. So you shouldn't get stuck on that really too much. and then turning back around there, and you're going to play that guy 6 times. Not a surprise, because that's how the first section of the main riff started. And the reason for this is because of the number of bars that it lasts for. I believe it is a 12-bar section. Yeah, the solo lasts for 12 bars. And the solos we will talk about in the next video, actually, because there's 2 of them and there's a lot to go over with them. So I want those to be their separate video after this. But anyway, after you get through the solo backing here, which the last bar of it actually ends on this 2nd fret here of the A string. It doesn't actually completely finish there because they transition into the next section right after that. So, which ends up, you have a weird bar of 3/8 at the end of the song, because that's really the only way you can count it, because then the rest of the song goes back into 4/4. And once that section is over, what happens is they're going to play the C5 chord section twice. And they're just going to play that twice, back to back each other. And then we're going to go back into the intro, actually, again, and play that twice like we did in the regular intro. And then you're going to have this other thing happen twice. You're going to do like you would for the intro, which is 0, 3, slide up to the 15. And after you've played that intro section, we're going to have something similar to that where we play open E, 3rd fret, slide up to 15. And we're going to do that twice like we normally would, but instead of doing it on the 3rd bar and sliding it up to the 12, we're going to change it and play this modified version of this C5 power chord section here with single notes like this. So it's pretty simple. I actually have it wrong on the tab, I think, right now. I will fix that, obviously, before I post it, so don't worry about that. And you're going to play that modified thing twice, like that. So, 0, 3, slide up to 15 twice, like we do in the intro. Play this modified chord with just the with just the regular notes that you play, the single notes instead of the full chord. And we're going to go to the backing for the 2nd solo, which is going to be super weird, but I'm going to show you guys how that goes right now. So that goes like that. So we have this introduction of a new section here. So with this backing for the 2nd solo, we have something familiar but something new with this power chord, this G power chord up here on the 10th fret A, 12th fret D. So the way this is going to start with open E, of course, for a quarter note, and then you're going to have, this is going to happen in the span of 4/16 notes. You're going to play the chord, and then hammer on to the 11th fret of the A, pull off to the 10, play the open E again, so like this. And then you're going to play the chord again. And then play open E. Those are going to be 8th notes there. And then you've got the 2/16 note and the 8th note at the end playing the chord. Actually, that is not correct. It is 4/16 notes. I don't know why I have it written like this. I think you can play it either way, honestly. Whichever way you want to do it. Having the 8th note gives you more time to go down here to the C5 power chord section. Alright, so after doing the solo backing there a couple of times, not a couple of times, 4 times actually, you're going to play that whole thing with the power chord here. That happens twice, and then you play the C5 section with the arpeggiated notes, and you're going to do that whole bit 4 times, which another 12-bar solo here, so not too complicated there. And then you're going to play the main chorus again that we talked about with all the chords in it, so the C5 here, the E7, the D, back to the E7, to the A, back to here, and then the ending part, You guys have seen it already. I'm not going to play it twice here. so you understand what that part already is. And then the song just kind of ends from there, and then there's this weird, like, free time, weird section that they play at the end, and Kim does this weird lead line, but, you know, that's basically the end of the song. After you play that last main chorus, it kind of just ends there with a long drawn out second fret here. I might as well go ahead and play it again. And it kind of just rings out there till the song ends. So that's kind of the whole song there, guys. There really are not a lot of parts to it. Most of the parts are just modifications of other ones. So they introduce a new part and then they throw it into something that's already there. So every part of the song kind of ties back in to other parts. So it's not that complicated, but it just sounds really good when you play it all together. And that's what I really love about this song. But the main thing is the solos, which you're going to get to next week. And hopefully after this you guys understand how to play Tighter and Tighter. I may also leave you guys the arrangement note that I make as well for the video, if I can figure out a way to upload that to Google Drive. But anyway, guys, hopefully you know the song now. And of course, you know, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. You don't want to miss the video about the solos from this song. And with that, I will see you guys next time for another video. Have a good one.